Hello and welcome to CarWale, and this is the all-new Safari. Now before we start rolling, we thought we'll address the elephant in the room, and that is, unlike the Safaris of old, this one does not get the more rugged, old-school body-on-ladder frame. And unlike the older Safaris, this one does not get four-wheel drive of any kind as an option even. And if you happen to load it up and negotiate a slippery incline, chances are you will struggle with this, because unlike the older Safaris, this one does not get rear wheel drive. This one is only a front wheel drive. So does that mean that just because the new Safari does not tick the right boxes when it comes to go anywhere ability like the older Safaris, one should avoid it? We don't think so. How about we look at it as an urban SUV, one that checks boxes on comfort, ease of driving, pampering features and intuitive connectivity. You know, a credible option to the likes of the Tata Harrier and the Hyundai Creta, but with the additional last row of seating. Does that make sense now? Well, let's dig deeper. Now I know the old Safari and this new one are two very different animals, but it's still very difficult not to draw references from the old car. Now if we were to look at the old car, it would be akin to somebody taking a hammer and a chisel to a block of wood and cutting it out. This one though is more like the work of a potter. Not Harry of course, but somebody who likes to play with clay and prefers roundness over straight cut lines. And though this design is very palatable, no doubt about that, but it's not, at least in my opinion, it doesn't seem to have the ingredients of turning into something iconic, which the older car certainly has. And that's mainly because the design doesn't seem new, and it isn't. The new Safari, in the broadest sense, is the Tata Harrier with an extra row of seating, a stepped roof and a little more rear overhang. Not surprisingly, the face is similar, if not identical. It shares the design and placement of the DRLs and the headlamps with the Harrier, and the grille outline hasn't changed either. But the finish for the grille is of course different now. The changes at the rear are more pronounced. The tail lamps are all new, the tailgate follows a different design altogether, and the rear bumper hasn't been borrowed from the Harrier either. But between the two, we actually prefer the Harrier. Besides looking more youthful, it comes across as the, like the more purer design. The Safari looks like more like an afterthought based on the Harrier, so Harrier it is for us. It's pretty similar to the Harrier on the inside as well as the Safari. So you've got a similar dash, you've got similar steering, similar vents, similar center console design. The only difference really is in the choice of colors that they've gone for. So you can see that there's white. The interior of the Safari is dominated by white in order to give it a more spacious feel. And you've got these small motifs all around. You've got a different faux wood finish on the dash, some soft grain plastic on top. So overall it gives the Safari a more spacious, more upmarket feel. Now seats is also something that Safaris have been known for. They've been known for comfy, large seats. And what you get on the new Safari is a seat that's more supportive, a seat that's sportier, and overall it's more comfortable than the one that you used to get on Safaris of yore. Now older Safaris, you'd sit high, your dashboard would be low, so you'd get fantastic visibility up front. That is not the case here. You sit more inside the car, but now you've got a much nicer driving position, so it feels like a more involving, more ergonomically sound driving position on this. And like I said, the seats are comfy. The one on the driver's side is also electrically adjustable, but there are some small ergo flaws. Definitely nowhere near what it used to be on the older Safari, but here to reach my electrical adjustable knobs here, I can't use my hand completely because the door gets in the way. I've got this storage space here, but the approach, or it's a pretty wide storage space, but to get there I've got two things that almost block it, so I have to maneuver through it. So that shouldn't have been the case, but otherwise it's a nice cabin to be in, and I love the seats at the front. Now let's see what it is in the second row. Ingress Egress is easier on the new Safari compared to the old one. I keep bringing up the old one because I think it's a good reference point. And once you're seated, it's a comfortable place to be. Now this seat, front seat, is set to my driving position, and this one of course is, you can adjust it for fore and aft movement. I've kept it somewhere in the middle, and still a decent amount of knee room. This backrest is almost straight, good amount of headroom. You can of course adjust the backrest till you hit the plastic part at the back, and so it's easy to find a comfortable seating position. It's easy to find a spacious seating position even if you're a little tall. And you get armrest on the seat. You have an armrest, soft touch here on the door, but these are a little too low, and so they don't fall to your arms easily. And I'm not very tall, not a very tall person. Imagine if you were taller, then of course you'd have to bend a lot more. And but the seat, the reason is also because I think the seat is a little higher. This is what Tata Motors calls theatre seating. So the seat at the back is a little set a little above or higher than the seat in front, so you get a better view. Now in other SUVs, if you were to sit same level, then you'd have to look through the front like this. But in this case, you can just have a more commanding view, so to speak. Also a nice place to be because of the seats themselves. They're not, these are of course optional extras. You otherwise get a bench even in the XZ trim. And these are not extremely large seats, but they are comfortable, they are supportive, and with the adjustability, you can spend long hours in them, no issue there. You also have nice practical storage spaces around. So you've got this tray here where you can put your cell phone. It's got a nice cover there, so things are not going to fall off. There's a bottle holder. Again, you can put something smaller at the back. You've got storage in the seat pocket for, I don't know, like a book or a magazine or something like that, or in your iPad. And you've got some more storage spaces here. So overall, it's a nice, comfortable place to be in, honestly. And in terms of even the feeling of space is pretty good. Not the largest of windows, but still, you don't feel hemmed in. Now another feature, if you're sitting here, is what you can do is, it's called the boss mode, where you can just move this seat up front right from the back. So it's a convenient feature. You don't want to disturb the driver. There's nobody in front. You're heading to office, sitting there. You can do that whenever you want to get more space. And now let's see what the rear is like, because after all, the whole point of the Safari, this new Safari, is 3-row seating. Let's see what the rear is like. Now the Safari in this XZ trim, XZ Plus trim, with these optional captain seats will cost you probably in excess of 22 lakhs on the road. But even for such an expensive car, you don't get like a one-seat button to fold the seat so that you can enter. So what you have to do is you got to first fold this, and then you got to move it in front, and then you can choose to step in. It's not the most elegant way to get in, but well, that's how it is. And now I'm going to ask my colleague to come sit. Bilal, can you please come in, and he's going to show you, he's going to take the seat completely back first, and then he's going to get a nice comfortable spacious seating position for him, and then we'll see where we stand. So Bilal, can you take it fully back? Yeah, so as you can see, the knees just about touch. So if though you don't really need to utilize all that space, but it's there. And now can you just set it to what is comfortable? And
this is fine, right?
All right, great. So and you also get adjustable headrest. So now you can see that knee room isn't really a problem. Headroom, if you're sitting straight, isn't really a problem. But if you choose to use the headrest, and you use the inclination of the seat, then of course your head is just about or almost touching the hatch or the boot lid. So if you're taller, chances are that your head will touch. If you're taller, chances are if you hit a bump, you're going to bounce and hit yourself. So it's not like the most comfortable, most spacious place to be in, but it's not a punishment or torture either. Now the seat themselves, very flat, so you don't really get any sort of thigh support. And if you want to use some of the thigh support, then you got to move up and keep adjusting yourself so that you remain comfortable. So We wouldn't say it's the ideal 6 or 7 seater, and it's not even something that you want to use in a pinch. You can use otherwise also. 100 200 kilometers, I think you can spend time in this, and given these 2 seats you might be able to extend your leg as well. Now for the rear occupants, you also get your own dedicated AC vents. You've got some stowage space, and you've also got this quarter window or quarter glass, and so you can see out of, so you don't really feel hemmed in even though you're sitting at the back. And in terms of theater seating is what Tata Motors says this car has. You're not really that low, so you're level with probably this seat or maybe slightly higher. So overall you can spend time here. Not ideal, but acceptable, surely. Now we have the top spec XE Plus trim here, and in terms of features it is pretty well equipped. There's keyless entry and start, a steering that adjusts for both reach and rake, an electrically powered driver's seat, multi-information system for the driver, and a single zone climate control system with vents for all 3 rows. It also gets a cooled box, cruise control, and a multimedia touchscreen system. Now the multimedia system scores high for the quality of sound it delivers, but in terms of features there's not a lot in there. Of course there's Apple CarPlay and Android Auto and a voice command system as well, but the latter is quite basic, and there's very little non-phone, non-media related information on the multimedia system. On the safety front, apart from the mandated ABS and rear parking sensors, the Safari top spec XE Plus variant also gets rain sensing wipers and automatic headlamps. There's a tire pressure monitoring system, 6 airbags, and for driving convenience in difficult terrain, there's hill hold, hill descent, and an ESP with selectable modes for city, wet, and rough roads. There's connected car tech on board as well, called Intelligent Real-Time Assist or IRA. It's similar to what we've seen from Kia and Nissan and Honda. So you get location-based services, vehicle security features, gamification, live vehicle diagnostics, etc. and of course remote commands, over-the-air updates. It's a comprehensive thing that includes everything from sending your navigation coordinates to weather updates, geofencing, time fencing, the whole shebang. So on that front I think the Safari is right up to date. Now the highlight of the new Safari is the fact that it can carry either 6 or 7 people, which makes it a family car, and that Tata signifies with this Easter egg on the rear window, which has a family of lions. So if you're going to travel with family in a family car, family in India, we tend to pack a lot and carry a lot. So let's see how this new Safari's boot copes up with our sort of luggage. I hate these alarm bells. They go off for almost everything in this car, which can be very irritating. Now with all the seats up, there isn't a lot of space. Even if we take a medium-sized cabin baggage, it fits in, but you won't be able to close the boot door because the lock's right here. You can carry 2 backpacks if you want, with laptops, etc. But if you want to carry any serious luggage, you gotta drop these seats. And then you've got 450, almost 450 liters of boot space, and that means you can put in a large size suitcase, maybe even 2 large size suitcases, a medium size suitcase, a cabin baggage, which if you place smartly it gives you even more room. And then we've got 2 more cabin size luggage, and as you can see, even then there is still a lot of space to put some knickknacks in there. But of course with the last row of seats up, well, the boot space is not just nothing to write home about, it is pretty much useless, especially for family travel. The new Safari not only shares the floor pan and some body panels with the Harrier, but it also borrows its running gear. It is only offered with one engine, a 4-cylinder diesel with almost 170 horsepower and 350 Newton meters of peak torque. The engine then can be had with either a 6-speed manual or a 6-speed automatic. And even though it is based on the Omega Arc platform borrowed from Land Rover, the Safari will only be sold as a front-wheel drive, which, much like any urban SUV. In terms of suspension, again, there's nothing complicated or outstanding. McPherson struts up front and a version of torsion beam axle at the rear, which Tata prefers to call the blade system. Now, the only time this engine doesn't feel good or feels noisy is, let's say,
Sport drive mode activated.
we put it in sport mode, and then we go to manual, and then we want to like really extract a lot from, and you can hear the drone coming in. It revs to about 4 before it automatically upshifts, but it just gets noisy when you rev it. So the best place to drive or the ideal RPM range for this car would be between 2 to 3. There's enough torque to pull there, and it doesn't get too noisy. And but yeah, I mean, yeah, if you drive it hard, noisy it certainly gets. Sometimes, I guess, given how nicely it handles for an SUV, that is, you don't mind pushing the engine a bit. Of course, expect the fuel efficiency to drop down dramatically when that happens. But yes, I don't know if you heard that, but the ESP kicks in quite abruptly. But yeah, overall, I think will we miss the petrol? There is no petrol. No, we won't. This diesel auto combo is good. The diesel manual combo should also be nice. And overall, I think Tata's found a good balance with this drivetrain. Now, when it comes to driving, the new Safari is literally generations ahead. And let's start with the steering. The steering is small for an SUV, but what's more important, or at least that took us by surprise, a happy surprise, was how quick it is. So it is barely 1, 2, 2.5. So just 2.5 steerings lock to lock. Now this is something that belongs in a car, not in an SUV, and it's very quick off the center, so there's barely any delay. So when you're driving, it feels a lot lighter than it is, and that's a big plus. The only problem with this steering is the setting. So now when at slow speeds it feels a little heavy, and as you start going faster it lightens up significantly. And in our opinion, I think it should have been just the opposite, because suddenly you're going a lot quicker and the car's reacting a lot, it's way more alert than you'd expect it to be. So it can take you by surprise. And this time, maybe it's not such a pleasant surprise. So that's the thing with the steering. But otherwise, I think they've done a wonderful job with the steering. Ditto for the handling. Compared to the older Safari, of course, I mean, this feels like a car now. The things that you can do with the new Safari, you could never ever imagine with the old one. Now take the turn-in, for instance. It's for an SUV this size and weight, you'd expect that when you turn in, there will be a hint of delay. There might be a little bit of understeer there. None of that. The steering is so quick that you turn and the car reacts pretty well as well. So it's only when you start leaning it hard into corners, or when you increase your corner speed, that's when you'd find that the car rolls quite significantly. And then if you keep pushing, then it starts to wash by. And when that happens, even though you're driving with the ESP off, like now, you'll feel it cut in. And so it's just takes a little bit away from the driving, but I think being safe is the way to go here. But the feel that the car offers is so good that you can, once you get used to it, you can finally balance it between the ESP kicking in and you letting the car move around a little. And once you get to that level, then the Safari feels a really nice involving SUV to drive, which for an SUV I think is lots of praise. Now when it comes to ride quality, the Safari rides very similar to the Harrier, so it's got this stiff kneed feel to the ride at slow speeds, so you can feel the bumps, the ripples, you can feel them on the pedals, the steering seat, so you can feel them. And if you go over really broken roads, then the Safari does tend to throw you a bit from side to side. But as you drive faster and not like 3-digit speeds, but even let's say you're doing 50, 60, 70 kilometers an hour, the ride settles down quite well. You can still feel it, but the Safari rides very flat, very pliant, and which, I mean, unless you have to deal with like really broken city roads, I think the ride would definitely get a thumbs up from us, because for well-paved city roads, for unexpected broken highway roads, even mid-corner bumps, the Safari feels quite blunt. So that's a strong positive for the car. The other thing that I like about the Safari, now you can feel like it's a long car. So even when you throw it around a corner, you can feel the front tucking in really fast and the rear trying to catch up. Not dramatically that much, but yeah, it takes a little while to catch up. So it feels like it's a long car instead of short one. And so when you're dealing with speed breakers and you don't seem to, I mean, if you've not spotted one and you charge into it and then you have to go over it, most SUVs, because the way they're sprung at the back, they will kick you, so you'll get this kicking at the back, which doesn't happen on the Safari. So even when you're driving all alone and you misjudge a speed breaker and the rear goes over it, it just settles beautifully. So beautiful damping all around. And that's, when you've got 7 seats, or if you've got a third row of seating, I think the passengers right at the back are really going to appreciate this fact. When it comes to braking, Tata Motors has given the Safari some additional hardware compared to the Harrier. So you've got disc brakes at the back as well. And I think it's made a significant difference. The way the setting is for how the brake pedal works is not to our liking, or not as much to our liking as it should be. So initially when you get on the brakes, it feels slightly soggy. And then as you start building power or as you start putting more weight on the brake pedal, then the bite starts to come in. And when the bite comes, then it's a pretty potent bite. And it's not like, it feels capable enough to stop this SUV, even at higher speed. So we've done quite a few braking maneuvers, and even the brake fade wasn't as significant as we thought it'd be. Would we have liked the initial feel to be better? Yes. Is it something? Is the current feel something that I need to worry about? No, not really. So I think for most people this would work. People would get used to it, because if it were on the other end of the spectrum, let's say if it were sharp, then of course it would scare more people than the situation is now. Because now only if you're like constantly pushing it and then you want to brake hard into a corner, and then you realize, oh, initially there's nothing, but then it comes in. So it's a very small bunch that would not appreciate this sort of braking. So yeah, so this is another good positive check for the Safari. Reclaim your life, make your own road. These weren't just taglines that defined the older Safaris. These lines actually rang true, and they pulled at the enthusiast heartstrings. I know, they worked on me. Sadly, these don't ring true for the new car. Now don't get me wrong, as an SUV, as an urban SUV, the new Tata Safari works. It's comfortable, it's got comfortable seats, it's got a pliant ride if not plush, it's got decent visibility if not fantastic, and it comes loaded with features for comfort and convenience and safety. and it's a manageable thing to drive and live with, be it in the city or on the highway. Yeah, I won't go chasing corners with this one, but for everything else, I mean, it's stable and pliant even on the highway. So no real issue there. But the thing is that you already have SUVs that deliver these things or these aspects in various degrees. You've got the Hector Pluses, you've got the new XUV 500 that will come, even the current one. You've also got the Creta if you don't really want 7 seats. So all of that is already there. So there's nothing really special about the new Safari. But most of all, at least for me, the new Safari fails to deliver on the old Safari's romance, the whole spirit of adventure, the choice that it offered of just looking somewhere and say, go anywhere. It doesn't have any of that. The real make your own road, reclaim your life bit. Now, the new Safari also continues to say reclaim your life, but I think it should have been more like reclaim your city life, your shopping life, your go to work life, take your extended family to dinner life. Nothing wrong with that, of course, great product definition, but just for me, I think it still doesn't convey that whole Safari spirit which we've grown up on.